And we are live. I'll go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of August 18th, 2025. First order of business is invocation and pledge of allegiance, and that'll be led by Councilmember Booker.
All right. Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this time that we have tonight, Lord. We just thank you for being humble enough, Lord, just to serve the people here in Maumelle, Lord. Just keep us blessed, Lord. Keep us doing the things that give honor and glory to you, Heavenly Father. Just give us that servant's attitude to be able to continue to have your blessings upon this community, amongst our nations, Lord. And please, Lord, we just ask for keep the heat down, Lord. And keep us cool and keep us safe out there. And we just give all the honor and the glory and the praise to you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Booker, but please, God, do not turn the heat down more in here. It is nice and chilly. With that, before we move on to the agenda, y'all had a copy on your desk of Resolution 2025 approving the disposal of city surplus property. We're asking for this to be read at this meeting. We think we may have the sanitation trucks coming in before the next meeting. We'd like to trade this in. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to amend the agenda under new business to add Resolution 2025-33.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion, second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yeah.
Yes.
Or yes. All opposed, no. Motion passes. We will get to that under new business. That brings us, first of all, I have one public comment card, but it's on an agenda item, so we'll address that when we get to it. And we will start off with Anthony Armstrong, Director of Finance in the Finance Report. Come on down, sir.
Good evening. It's been a fast first month in the beautiful city of Maumelle. I'm excited to be a part of the team, excited to be here in this great city. So just a few things. Overall, we have stable revenue streams. Our property taxes, franchise fees, state turnback revenue are all tracking way above what we expected. We have a strong positive fund balance. Our general fund balance is over $14 million. Our street fund balance is positive. It's over $5 million. Our sanitation fund balance is roughly over $1.2 million. Our cash reserves are good. We have roughly about $13.3 million in cash reserves in our general fund, as well as $5.1 million in our street fund. Right now, currently, we're working, we opened the budget, and so we're working on 2026 budget at this time.
And just to reiterate or to note, the financial report that was in the packet had errors in the report. I've been in discussions with Anthony, who's been on the phone with OpenGov today, trying to escalate that report. And the report is used in the story, which is printed off and automated in the financial report. So we're not going to go over the financial report. We'll ask to sort of table that until the next meeting, just to make sure that the numbers that we have are accurate. It'd be weird to accept a financial report that we know is not accurate, but we were unable to sort of get that fixed in the reporting system. So a little while back, y'all may recall, we moved to from sort of a manual report that was compiled by finance to an automated report that comes out of OpenGov. There's something in the report itself, some magic that Beatrice did that we haven't yet figured out. So we're working on getting that sorted out. So that'll be at the next meeting. But in the meantime, are there any questions for Mr. Armstrong? I asked him to come up and talk anyways about what's going on in his start here with the city. So we probably need a motion. I'd entertain a motion to table the financial report to the next council meeting.
So moved.
I've got a motion. Did I get a second?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We will hit that at the start of the next, at the appropriate place in the council meeting. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you.
That brings us to the procedural motion. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to have all ordinances and resolutions read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We'll move on to unfinished business. Oh, we did not approve the minutes. I just ran on past that. Let's back up. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Y'all received a copy of the minutes from the August 4th regular meeting. I'll go ahead and open the floor for,
Motion to approve. Second.
got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Now we will move on to unfinished business. The first item of unfinished business is the second reading of ordinance 1148, accepting annexation of land. Madam City Clerk Treasurer, if you could please read that by title only.
Yes, sir, I apologize. I have a little technical difficulty. Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1148, an ordinance accepting the annexation of land commonly known as Clawson Point Addition, to be titled the Clawson Point Annexation to the City of Maumelle, Arkansas, making the Clawson Point Addition a part of the City of Maumelle, assigning the same land to Ward 4 and for other purposes.
All right, this is on second reading. I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion. Seeing none, this will be on third reading at the next council meeting. That brings us to the next agenda item, which is the second reading of ordinance 1149, amending land use plan. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1149, an ordinance amending the Maumelle Land Use Plan and map for the Clawson Point Addition and for other purposes.
Open the floor for discussion. Seeing none, this will be on third reading at the next council meeting. That brings us to the second reading ordinance 1150, amending the zoning map. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1150, an ordinance amending the Maumelle zoning map for the Clawson Point Addition and for other purposes.
I'll open the floor for discussion. Seeing none, this will be on third reading at the next council meeting. That'll bring us to new business. The first item of new business, I'm going to go ahead and put resolution number 2025-33 up there. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, Pulaski County, Arkansas, resolution number 2025-33, a resolution to approve the disposal of city surplus property.
All right, so we have, y'all know we've ordered 2 sanitation trucks. They're telling us that they may be here as early as next week. To quote Mike Hogan, he said, "I'll believe it when I see it." But in the event that we do receive them, we want to be able to trade in these old sanitation vehicles on that. So I'll open the floor for discussion.
Motion to approve resolution 2025-33. Second.
We're going to motion and second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. I should say that we need to be on the lookout. Y'all may recall that we were really low in the sanitation funds and cash on hand. We had 2 sanitation trucks on order. If we receive them at this time, we'll probably have to come back to the council and ask for a loan from the general fund to the sanitation fund to cover that cost. If it takes a few more months, we don't think we'll do that, because we're really approaching the point where we can just pay cash outright for these. So, just a heads up on that. Councilmember Gardner?
Were they ordered at different times? Because we didn't order them at the same time,
We
right?
ordered two.
That's just,
yeah.
we ordered two at once.
once,
Oh, okay. I thought we ordered them like a year apart. I'm like, well, that's funny. They're bringing them all.
Maybe because we ordered them a year or two ago.
Well, no, I knew that, so, okay. I just thought it was interesting. I'm good.
Yeah, we basically paid half down up front and then pay the second half when they arrive. And so depending on when they arrive, it'll the fund will either have the money or not. Councilmember Tierney?
Yeah, are either one of those trucks gonna be one of those trucks that can do all that line cutting along poles and like that? You showed us a video of a truck when we were considering, buying the two trucks, and there was one that we were considering that had a lot of special functions.
Okay, yeah, so these are both sanitation trucks, so they're the automated arm trash pickup trucks.
Okay.
You may be thinking of the Mower Max,
Yes,
which was
I
the
am.
mower with the arm. We received that earlier this year.
So you have gotten
It's
that
been
already?
out and about. I think it's one of the reasons. Now, it's been dry for a little while, so it's easy for people to forget that it was wet for a long period of time. But for the first time in a long time, I think with staffing improving and the Mower Max, I didn't hear complaints this year about mowing along the boulevard and the like. So that was, that is, I think, attributable in part to the Mower Max, which we received earlier.
That's good
this year.
news.
And staffing is doing really well. All right, where was I? Okay. We'll move on now to the bond discussion. You may recall at the last council meeting, and I do have two public comment cards that I'll get to here in just a moment. At the last council meeting, we were kind of talking about some of the different options we had to determine the process that we wanted to use to identify the projects. I included a little bit of more information, including what the available funding, construction funds are anticipated to be, maximum amount. We don't have to use all of it, we don't have to use any of it. But that is the maximum amount we can go to, so long as we're looking at the half-cent sales tax, an extension of that, not a new one, an extension of the current half-cent sales tax. I then, just to kind of keep the process moving, I listed a number of projects that have come up more recently. I do want to say, I know this got out here, I had a few folks reach out to Nicole at Senior Services and ask to meet to talk about the pool, and I agreed to go. What started off as what I thought was a meeting with a couple people ended up with them posting it and advertising it, and it becoming more of like an open sort of meeting. By analogy, it's like it might be similar to setting up an appointment at your doctor's and then posting that there was a clinic open for folks. It actually, I think, went really well. It was informative. I say that because I would assume there are people here who heard about that and were wondering why we didn't notify y'all or why it wasn't a public meeting. In fact, after discussing it with the city attorney, because we didn't go through the processes for a public meeting, for FOIA reasons, we couldn't have council members attend. So anyways, just to put that out there, that was not like a meeting that we planned that was for the public that we kept y'all out of. So just wanted to do that. We can go on a little bit, but I do have two public comment cards, so I'll go ahead and hit those up top. Justin Parks. Please come on down, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
All right, my name is Justin Parks. I live at 1114 Tahoe Drive. First of all, good evening. Thank you guys for the opportunity to speak today. As I mentioned, my name is Justin Parks. I'm the president of the Maumelle Sports Association, and we run the local baseball league here in Maumelle. I'm joined by Johnny Midkiff in the audience here today. He's the president of the Softball Association, which runs all of the local softball leagues as well. We're here along with several other coaches and volunteers who work hard to ensure that the youth of Maumelle have opportunities to play recreational baseball and softball here locally. While there is a small number of people here tonight, collectively we're here on behalf of a growing number of community members, coaches, parents, and athletes who are passionate about the future of youth sports in our city. Based on prior meeting notes that I've reviewed, it's my understanding that a bond is being discussed to fund several projects to improve our city. I'd like to respectfully ask for your consideration in investing in synthetic turf, baseball, and softball fields for our community. As you know, our fields are a vital part of the community. Collectively, we have over 1,000 young athletes participate in our baseball and softball leagues every year. These fields are where kids learn teamwork, discipline, and perseverance. They're where families gather, friendships are formed, and memories are made. But unfortunately, our current natural grass and dirt fields are increasingly unable to meet the demands of our growing programs and unprecedented weather. Rainouts, poor drainage, and maintenance challenges are limiting access and opportunities for our youth. Synthetic turf offers a solution that's both practical and forward-thinking. These fields are durable, low maintenance, and weather resistant. They allow for significantly more playtime, fewer cancellations, and year-round usability. This means more practices, more games, and more chances for our kids to stay active and engaged. Beyond the athletic benefits, synthetic turf can also be a smart financial investment. Reduced maintenance costs and fewer repairs can help offset the initial installation expenses over time. Additionally, these fields can attract regional tournaments and events, bringing in visitors and revenue to our local businesses. In closing, we're not asking for a luxury. We're asking for commitment to the health, development, and future of our youth, like many other cities in Central Arkansas have already done. By installing synthetic turf fields, the city of Maumelle would be making a bold statement that we value our kids, we value our community, and the role that sports play in shaping both. And we're willing to make a long-term investment to reflect those values. I appreciate your time and consideration. We're excited about the possibilities, and we're hopeful for your support.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Next up, Rory Eckert. Come on down. If you wouldn't mind, young man, pulling that microphone down a little bit.
There you go.
I think that we should have turf fields because it's a smoother surface. If you fall down, you're not on rocks. And a field they can use all year. And if it rains, the fields you just can't get canceled. You can't cancel the games anyway. And number 3, it's safer and it has less injuries. Dirt has holes and uneven spots, which makes players trip and get hurt. And that's 3 reasons why I think that we should have turf instead of dirt.
Thank you very much, sir. Councilmember Williams?
I didn't get his name. I couldn't hear that. Rory
Rory Eckert.
Eckert. And how old are you, Roy?
9.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, one of the goals for tonight is to see if we can continue talking about the process by which we select a project. Councilmember Gronwald, at the last the council meeting, you'd asked that I look into just see what some of the other cities had done. And I reached out to Cabot. What Cabot had done is they held a public hearing, public engagement meeting. They already had a list of projects that they were looking at, and then after that meeting, they added some. I spoke to Bryant, who unsuccessfully had something, and I believe Mayor Treat said absolutely nothing. That's what they did before it, and he'll never do that again. When you look at something like, maybe that's why it didn't work. So we've had, I think the interchange was one that I don't believe we had pre-ordinance public meetings and hearings on, but there were certainly post-ordinance meetings and hearings and informational stuff. Cabot had I was kind of unable to really flesh out what they did for their soccer complex and aquatic center, but it did involve surveys and a public engagement process. And then they had, prior to that, for the aquatic center and sort of scoping that project, they had a committee that had been working on that. So if we're looking at our pool, we haven't had a committee that was looking at that. Conversely, we chose the route of consultants coming in and kind of doing that. So just an update of some of the other areas and other ways that folks would and have done things. So I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion. Councilmember Tierney?
Yes, you mentioned a maximum amount for all the bond issues, but you didn't give us an actual number.
It's in the memo in the council packet.
Oh.
23 million, basically just above 23 million.
Right, great, thank you, I want to confirm that.
Councilmember Gardner?
I've got some questions. Did you want to run through these, or do you want me just to start
For
asking
the,
a few questions?
for the,
I didn't know how you wanted to do your list that you prepared.
This memo was just me sitting there typing out what projects I thought that we have been talking about in one form or another at council meetings.
Okay.
And so I'm happy to go into those. This was not necessarily the list that I would choose. There are projects on here I think are more important than others. For example, the North Maumelle Drainage Project, I included that because that's a project we've been looking at, but whether that's bonds or something that we continue to apply for grants is up in the air. So,
Okay.
however you'd like to do it.
I've got a few questions on some of these, and so a couple of weeks ago, when Mr. Rayburn was doing his State of the Union for Parks and Rec, I just asked about the artificial turf because other cities had been doing that. Because it's one of the things that I had heard from several residents, several of which are here tonight, the ones that have called me repeatedly over the years. And full disclosure, my son he's not in he's on the soccer side of the house, but so they had asked about it, and I know they've done a lot in terms of like the batting cages. They've built things and then donated them to the city. And I think they have also looked, they tried to do artificial turf on their own, but there's this whole issue of getting money for property that you do not own. Apparently that's tough to do, so that they couldn't do it themselves, and so they were kind of at an impasse. But they had tried that over the last several years, and I spoke with Matt about that multiple times. So they've put some numbers together, and I just thought I would be curious to see what it would look like to do some portions of artificial turf. I think the proposal that they were looking at, it wasn't even doing the entire field, but just the infield, which sees the most activity. Do you coach or referee baseball? Yours football. A little bit of that, okay. But that's what sees the most wear and tear. And they said they can't actually play when they've had rain on the outfield. They don't care about the outfielders, just the infielders being able to run. So definitely not. No, but anyway, so they put some numbers together. But I thought that would be interesting to see what the cost was if we looked at doing infields on our softball, baseball. And then soccer is a whole other animal. I mean, you'd probably be looking at doing one field. I don't know. We don't know what the numbers look like. So when the mayor asked a few weeks ago what our thoughts were, I didn't have any thoughts at that point. And then I thought about artificial turf, so I thought I'd throw that out there. So anyway, but we'll see as we move on. Some of the other questions I had, Mayor, on your memo. Oh, the pool. We've not seen a lot as far as what it would cost operationally. Do we have anything on that?
Absolutely. So we, in part of the presentation that Nicole gave when we were talking about that, we put pen to paper, and we think that the gross cost annually, based on our best estimates, are $140,000 a year. And we believe we can offset all of that, but just around $30,000. And that is using the insurance, the silver sneakers and the like that so many of our members are. So if we didn't increase a single member and we only charge the insurance for it, we think that we come to a net cost to the city of $30,000 a year. And I think we were using some pretty conservative numbers on that. So we think costs might come down a little bit. But I don't know. And we feel pretty strongly about that revenue. And so y'all may recall we put out that study last year for to examine a pool at the center on the lake. Just as a reminder, that study was limited to looking at a pool at center on the lake. And so that's sort of what we had looked at. And the result was a big eye-opener for me, because we've been talking for over a decade about a pool, us not being able to afford a pool. Because the O&M cost back in 2013, I believe, was right around $500,000, and I'm sure it's $750,000 now, with the bulk of that money going toward lifeguards and the like that you'd have at a bigger municipal pool. When we saw something that had an O&M, a net, right around 30,000, that was a game changer for me. It went from something that we just can't afford, not only the construction of, but it was just too impactful with that large number. In my opinion, we now have a very palatable number, very reasonable number that we feel very confident that we can reach that without a huge impact to the budget. And so for me, that was a game changer. So, did that answer your question? I don't remember what it was.
Well, no, that was it.
Okay.
I think, I mean, that's always been my concern. Was what it was going to cost long term, because I've visited other municipalities' pools and have seen kind of how they can deteriorate, but just because it's just the nature, you're enclosing a pool. And I was just concerned what our ongoing cost was going to be. Just from a financial standpoint, where we stand as a city, you know, that ongoing expense is a concern. But no, that's good. I think if we could see, I know Nicole gave that presentation.
Sure, I can give numbers.
Yeah, just
and the whole nine.
more data on what that would be
Sure.
like. I think that would make me feel a lot more comfortable with it.
I've got a spreadsheet here, but I can't pass
That's
that
fine,
around.
that's
So
fine.
I can certainly include that or email that.
Yeah, that's fine. The other ones that I wanted to ask specifically about, you mentioned the North Maumelle Drainage Project. That's a really big number. And I guess when we first did, we moved $1 million over, correct? In anticipation of getting a
No,
grant?
we have more than $1 million. So we originally approved for a grant at $4 million, and we rotated $1 million at that time.
Right.
We went through the engineering, and then the project costs came in high, and so they recommended that we reapply for that, to which we did, but then didn't get it. And anyway, somewhere, I don't have the exact number, I think we moved another 600,000 or 700,000 in that. So the FEMA grant fund balance, I believe, is at 1.6 million.
So I think that was one of the first things that Councilmember Tierney and I had in 2019 is when we started. And I think it was around that time, and we had like one night to approve that. I think you had asked for it, and we said, okay, we had the cash at the time, and we moved. It was just moving money into a fund. But, you know, since then, I know there's been a few, or maybe isolated incidents of something happened over there. I know Public Works did some work and it helped. But then I also wonder, you know, there's grants available that can go in and take properties that are prone to flooding, and they would not be there any longer. You know, if we were to go in and purchase a portion and it's returned to parkland or something. And so I just wonder if you can go in and do other things that would eliminate the flooding problem of people being flooded versus spending however much we'd have to spend to do that. So that was it's a big number, and that's a lot.
Huge number. I will say that there's a lot of, we're still getting negative impacts that are short of full residential flooding. Again, this is not me advocating that this should be a bond project, but just that the project is there. So if you go down and look at Murphy Drive through the industrial park, it is quite the sight when it backs up, because that's the same river creek that comes and it meets head on with the creek that's coming from the north side of Maumelle. So it's number of homes that are at risk, and then the soccer fields have flooded in the past. And I had a resident even further downstream talking about how the water during heavy rains, they felt it was coming up. So I think it's something that unfortunately needs to remain on the radar, because I can think of a lot more fun things to do with $1.5 million if we're talking a grant, but it has, and we can kind of go through and list that all out, which we haven't sold it like that because it was sort of pre-sold to the council.
Right.
Back when we were back in 17 when we applied, and then 19 when it was
Yeah,
granted.
okay. Well, that's just what I wanted to ask. I didn't know where that kind of stood as a project that we were actively pursuing. I know we applied for the grant again, but I didn't know if it was still as much of an issue as it has been in the past. So, yeah, there just comes a point when you do where do you spend your money, and it's like, well, if you can eliminate the area, yeah, I didn't know what the
It
options
is
were.
one of those unfun projects, and I say unfun because I don't know, it's like the wastewater business. Improvements to wastewater just means everything functions as normal. It's not until it doesn't function as normal that all of a sudden it becomes an issue. And some time has lapsed, but there's more to it than just that.
That's all I had for now, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Tierney?
Yes, I was one of the people who tried to attend the meeting this morning, and because of freedom of information, I was bounced faster than Councilmember Cory Booker can throw a red penalty flag. But as soon as I left, I was immediately contacted by, go ahead. And I was immediately contacted by other members who were unable to attend, and they had gone through, and one thing people had been asking me, my phone's been burned up, my email's been burned up on this, because a lot of people excited about this potential. They've just been wanting this for so long. And everybody's asking me, well, what can we do to convince the rest of the council? I said, well, call them, write them, or instead of you all being flooded with all these different people all sending the same emails over and over again, I said, well, just make out a petition, just so they'll just see a list of the names of the residents who want this here in Maumelle. And she had a petition of 168 names she wanted to give me to present tonight at the meeting. So I've got that here. Is that appropriate to give to you now?
Sure.
All right. So that's 168 names of people who expressed their support for the idea of the indoor pool at the senior center.
Thank you, sir. So one of my big goals is not to select the projects tonight, but to see if we can come up with a little bit better understanding of how we want to select the projects. At this point, based on kind of what I heard, I'll have recommendations, and y'all could throw it away or do whatever. I'm only making recommendations to try and make progress. Based on what I've heard, and then after talking with a few different cities and seeing what's going on, I heard and understood that some sort of survey would be good. I also like the idea of just a public meeting where we can explain what the projects are. I don't know what this would look like. I want to say a town hall meeting, but those tend to be very person in the front of the stage talking to the audience. I like some of the more workshop type projects that we've had or meetings where it is more, maybe we can have a talking session and I don't know, stuff. Just this idea of saying, here's kind of what we're thinking, what are y'all thinking, and then are you thinking things that we haven't thought of? I think we could, so those would be my two things, maybe one first then the other or something along those lines to kind of start weeding out or hearing more suggestions other than what we've talked to. I'm happy to continue to have this conversation, so please somebody hit your button anytime about now who wants to share thoughts. Does that sound like a horrible idea, a great idea, mediocre? Councilmember Booker.
No, I like it. I mean, I think I like the survey type, so everybody be involved, so nobody can say they were left out or anything like that. So, I mean, I'm okay, with the emails and stuff. I'm getting on the pools and stuff, so we know. And of course, definitely, I'm interested in the youth and things like that. I'm sure we all are, but hopefully, we'll have enough to do everything we have, and so. But I would say buy-in from everybody in the community or whatever would definitely be the way we should go.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Williams?
Well, so on a lot of these, you say the cost is being calculated.
Yeah.
And I think that we could probably, I'm all for the improvements at Lake Valencia. I think that's very important. I think it's a health issue at the moment because, even the charter school uses Lake Valencia to run laps, and I think the boardwalk is definitely in need of an upgrade and the gazebo. But with the cost not being, that we don't even know what that would be, I think for all of these, I love the survey idea too. Like you said, I think if we have a town hall or a workshop or something like that, I think some people are gonna feel like their voice is not being heard. But, as far as the survey goes, everybody would have an opportunity to weigh in. And I think when we get the estimated cost of these projects, like the police and fire training facility, that's important to me. The Lake Valencia improvements are important to me, but it's also a health risk. And plus, you think about where it's located in regard to the new park going up, and it would be an absolute pearl for the rest of the community. But like you said, there are some things that we need that aren't necessarily pretty, like the drainage issue. We've been talking about that a long, long time, and I'm pretty sure those people in those apartments wish we would do something to help them. So, I agree. I would rather see a survey, and I think that we might be surprised at what we see.
So, and just think about this, I'm interested in knowing what sort of surveys we're talking about. Because you can do things like, here are some projects, rank these, do you have other ideas? How much do you think, they've ranged from project specific that I've seen to, how interested are you in seeing things for this group or that group, or that are infrastructure related or recreation related? So just as we're talking about a survey, as we're talking about a survey, if you have a particular thing in mind, please let me know, because we may be talking about surveys and different things entirely. But now I've got some buttons pushed. Awesome. Councilmember Booker.
So question, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Johnny, Mr. Justin, one of y'all, can you give me a price? Can you give us a price estimate, I guess, what it would be for this?
So, and this is Justin Parks again. I'll preface this by saying the quotes that we got were from March of 2024. So that's what I'm basing this off of. I think we all can agree that it may vary a little bit, but I do think that the ballpark figure for the baseball park, and I know that you mentioned, Chad Gardner mentioned that, some parks do infields only, some of them do pole-to-pole turf, or the full fields in that scenario. In this scenario, we would be looking at infields only, just because from a cost perspective, I mean, you do the entire field and it's going to make that number jump through the roof. But from the baseball side, so there's two different avenues to look at. One of them being the civil side, so we got a civil proposal. That's going to be for all the dirt work, removal of all the dirt work, all the labor, all the cost of equipment, everything. So that's one side of it. Then the other is the actual cost of the synthetic turf that goes on there. And so for the baseball side, we got 8 fields on the baseball side. You're looking at an approximate cost of $1.9 million. That does all 8 of those fields. Infields only on the 6 big ones, and then the 2 smaller fields for the 3 to 6 year olds. It would be the full field, because those are about equivalent to an infield. And on the softball side, you're looking at about $900,000. So total for the baseball and softball side would be right at about 2.8, based on last year's numbers. I know Mr. Gardner also mentioned the soccer side. Chad, after our conversation the other day, I can tell you a full 11 on 11 field, you're looking at about 900,000 to do the entire soccer field. So if you wanted to include the soccer side into that as well, you're looking at about 900,000. It's about, I think, 85,000 square foot, and you're looking at all-in cost about 10,000. So give or take a little bit, 850 to 900 for a soccer field. And to your point that you made on the call with me the other day, that can be broken down into several smaller soccer fields, or you have the full-size field. But you're looking right around 2.8 million for the baseball and softball side by itself.
And the cost to maintain?
So the cost to maintain, you're going to save some, right? And a lot of the costs, and so like from the Baseball Association, and I'll speak on behalf of Johnny, but from the Softball Association, so our associations actually incur a lot of the costs when it comes to maintaining the surfaces. So we pay for the dirt, we pay for chalk, we pay for paint, we pay for fertilizer, we pay for ryegrass in the wintertime to overseed the fields with. All of that comes out of the association costs, so we're funding that right now. We actually just spent about $100,000 to redo 5 of the baseball fields on our side of the house. The city actually contributed $20,000 towards that 100, so the association spent 80, city spent 20 on that, because it was in bad need. I mean, every time it rained, we had lakes. I mean, we always joked. I mean, I had a whole family of geese living on field 3 for a long time, because when it rained, the water would stay there. If you didn't pump it by hand, and that would be Philip Rayburn's crew and Pat Brown, if they didn't get out there and pump it by hand, that water sat there for a week, if not longer. And so we were in dire need to do something, because after this spring, if we wouldn't have done it before this spring, that dirt work, I don't know that we would have been able to play our league this spring with all the rain we got. I'd love to have some now, but at any rate, so cost savings, there is some maintenance still with the synthetic turf, obviously. You gotta fluff it, you have to brush it, stuff like that. That's dependent upon how much use it's getting. It may be once a week, it may be once every couple weeks, whatever that is. But what you're gonna save is you are gonna save some time for the Parks and Rec crew, because I know Pat and his team, they're out there every day, they're dragging fields, they're, messing with irrigation, they're doing all kinds of stuff, chalking lines, especially during season, and for tournaments as well. So you're gonna save some time there. And my hope is that with the association saving money on some of the stuff like dirt, I mean, the dirt we buy is $6,000 a truckload. So when we bring it in, we gotta bring it in. One truckload may fill in some on like 2 fields. So you can imagine that adds up pretty quick when you got 8 fields that you're dealing with. But saving some of that money, my goal as president of the Baseball Association is to take some of that money we save, put it back into the common areas within the park, be able to maybe, overseed the common areas out, not on the playing surface, right, but inside, and help out with some of those things as well, just to try to make our parks look top notch, because we got great facilities. Right. My fear is that we are just going to fall behind, because Sylvan Hills, I know Sherwood has a bond they're voting on, I believe in November, a bond extension, and I think they're putting $8 million into their ballparks to redo all of the infields, the fencing, the netting, everything, and it's well overdue for them as well. So it's definitely the trend lately. So
one last question.
Yeah.
Well, being a former, I guess I used to maintain those fields in Whitehall and everything.
Yeah.
So I used to do that, and announce and all that kind of stuff. But question would be, my last question is, it would bring in, I'm sure, some revenue.
It would.
And everything for a tournament. I mean, would you say 20, 30 more tournaments, 10, 15 more? I mean, because that would bring into the community as well as.
Yeah. So we host at the baseball side, we host the 7 and 8 year olds USSSA state tournament every year.
Yeah.
That is a huge tournament for the association, because that actually helps fund our leagues. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, we host anywhere from, I would say, 5 to 6 a year. Mm-hmm. We could take that number up to 10 to 12 probably on the baseball side. Softball side, they host a lot of tournaments on the softball side, and so I don't want to speak for Johnny, but I know both Johnny and I have both talked, and there's tournament directors that would absolutely bring tournaments to Maumelle. They hesitate to do it on natural grass fields and natural dirt fields, because if it rains out, tournament directors out a lot of money. Right. So they're not going to take that risk if they don't have to. They're going to go to Conway or Cabot or Hot Springs or the surrounding communities that have these synthetic turf fields already.
Thank you.
Yep. No problem.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
I have no reason to doubt any of those numbers, but just as a disclaimer, we've just starting to look at the numbers from the city's side. As soon as I got wind that this might be a potential project. So we'll have that. And then I'd like, to the extent possible, to try to focus on the process by which we're selecting the projects. It's a great time to ask the folks that are here those sorts of questions, but our number one goal is not to choose the projects tonight. It's to see if maybe we can come up with a direction on what we want to do to select those. So, Councilmember Shin.
my concern is more on our infrastructure end. We've got a lot of folks who are really excited about the ballparks. We've got a lot of people who are excited about a pool. Yet changes in my family's work take us over to Maumelle High School on a daily basis. And Champs is terrible. We've patched and patched. We've got plates on the ground over there that have been down there for a couple of months. And it's the amount of traffic that's on it now. I understand why the road's breaking up. It's seeing probably double the traffic it was planned for with Tractor Supply at the far end of it. But that when you start going out to vote and you're doing it in packages, or if you're doing a survey, people are going to want the pool. They're going to want the ballparks and such as that, when we really need to worry about our infrastructure. And that's kind of where my concern lies on this, is that we may need to do more of a presentation, or I don't know, I really like what RDOT does, where they come in and they have people who can answer questions on certain areas, and you can find out about what they're planning. Now, this is a little different. I realize this is more vague than the engineering and things that they bring in. But like I say, we really need to be sure we take care of our infrastructure, because if we're wanting our industrial park to grow, if the trucks are falling in holes, or if the students are driving through holes and tearing up their cars going to and from the school, then the families are going to get upset about that too. So, just my thoughts.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Grunwald? Hit the button so long ago, you forgot you were in
Yes.
line.
I almost forgot what I was going to say. So, putting my marketing hat back on and talking about what we want our strategy to be and how we want to communicate with the public. So for me, I see it as definitely multifaceted. I like the idea of the public hearing, public engagement. Survey is just one tiny spoke of the wheel, I think, of what we're talking about. Kind of a little bit like Councilmember Williams said, that some people might not have the opportunity to attend a town hall. Some people might not have the opportunity or technological know-how to, scan a QR code and fill out a form, or may not want to. So my question is this: would the Arkansas Municipal League have resources and be able to guide, advise on any of this?
I'm unaware of any.
Okay. Well, that was a short answer, but moving on.
Councilmember Williams?
Okay, I think this preliminary timeline that you have in here is very good, and I think, if we probably need to get on this if the final projects need to be selected by November 3rd. We don't really have a whole lot of time to waste here and try to figure it out. And as far as the surveys go, we could put out a scatter load and then start paring it down, see what people are focusing on, and then start paring it down till we finally get to something that's manageable. Because right now it's so overwhelming, so much money and so many projects, and not everybody wants everything. I'm pretty sure they want there are priorities in this list for everybody. But we need to see exactly what those priorities are as far as the public goes, and start paring that down, start focusing on those priorities and get it down to something that's manageable. And, I understand that the survey is just one spoke in the wheel, as you say, but I think that's a place to start. And then as we start focusing on these priorities, then we can start having our meetings and things like that would bring the public into view and get them involved. So that's where I would go with that.
Thank you, ma'am. Just a heads up, after the ordinances are passed, assuming some are and the projects are selected, I want to be clear, the city, I think, has done a good job, and I'd like to do an even better job going out and holding the public, like, what are the projects that you're gonna see on the ballot? What are these meetings? Going out to the different organizations and talking about what the projects are and stuff. So we'll have that sort, and we're already looking, I think some cities have done a really good job with websites designed toward those bonds, and then I think the better cities have done a good job after the bonds are passed, following up with the status of each of those projects. Where is your, you know, we're gonna extend a sales tax, how is that going? What's the status of the projects? So on and so forth. So that's the sort of stuff that we'd include. I just don't want anyone to think that we're talking about only until we vote on the ordinances, then we'll all go home, do nothing, and the like. What'll end up happening is some of the folks in the front of the room are going to be advocating for their projects. Some of the folks in the back of the room are going to be advocating for their projects. And as I was saying at this meeting this morning, the selection process of the projects can be a little bit competitive because there's a limited pool of money. But after those projects are selected, I think it is no longer competitive projects, if that makes sense. So it's not like, no, I want an indoor pool at the senior center. No, I want this. You can get them both or neither. They're not linked at that level. So just food for thought is we do plan to get the word out 100% after. The question is just how do we get that input, right, on the projects prior to getting an ordinance passing and getting it on the ballot. Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor. Following up on what Councilmember Shin said, and Councilmember Williams, yeah, we are here at meetings every time, and we know what some of our major concerns are for the city, and those aren't the things that the citizens think about until they go off the road because of a pothole, you know. So, you know, in talking about the process, Mayor, I'm kind of thinking that there are certain things on this list that we need to say need to be done. And I think infrastructure is certainly one of those, and that could be fire infrastructure, police and training, and then also city road improvements. I mean, we spent our entire budget on that one stretch of Carnahan, you know, and so there's that's just one street, and we spent our entire budget on it. And so I think there are certain things that we're going to know as a council that need to be done, and then there's the other things that we can go out to the residents with and say, these are some things that people have asked for. What are your thoughts on it? And have them rank those. But you know, we're also elected to make decisions as well. And I think there are a number of things on this list that are extremely important that need to be included, such, you know, as the infrastructure. We've done a lot of really cool projects since 2020, and we have put a lot into Parks and Rec. And just in accessibility and with the Club Manor and all that, we got some really cool projects going on. But you know, infrastructure is not the glamorous thing, but it's what's going to take us into the next 10, 15, 20 years. And we talked about that with the North, you know, Morgan interchange as well. So I am not one that thinks developers should always be the one bearing the burden on infrastructure that is needed. When the city grows to a certain point, there's a point when connections need to be made to help the city continue to grow. And I know the mayor put on his memo here talking about natural trail. That connection would alleviate a ton of traffic at our new roundabout, and they wouldn't even have to go through it. And so, you know, there's just things that I think we need to make improvements in our city, and we shouldn't put it off on other people to say, well, when you develop it, build it. Well, what if they don't own it and they can't develop it? And we've built around it, and then the city's stuck, and we need to do something. So, you know, so Mayor, back to your question, I think there are certain things that we should do on this list, and that the council should just say this is what really needs to happen for the city. And then there's those other projects where we just go to the residents and ask them what they want, so what their thoughts are.
Thank you, sir. So I'm going to do something very dangerous that I'm going to regret and say I shouldn't have done this. If I look just at the list that I have here, and I've added turf on the bottom, and I start throwing out random numbers that I think are maybe appropriate, just to gauge what we're talking about, I think indoor pool and parking upgrades, if you throw $6 million, that more than covers it. The last numbers we had, and they're being updated from the pool, I'm almost hesitant to say numbers too much, but we have 4 as the cost of construction as of last year. you tack in whatever the cost of the parking upgrades, that are needed, and extension, and you're probably looking at 5 to 6, if you look at the police and fire training facility, I think we're looking at under 2, dangerous number, because we haven't priced out the indoor shooting ranges. Fire Station 3, I asked Chief Buford what are some numbers the last time you looked, and I think he said 4.5, 5, so if you throw 6 down. Improvements at Lake Valencia, is I don't even know where to begin there, so if I were to shoot high and say 3, that should more than cover what we're talking about, but again, we haven't begun to look at that. And then we were saying turf, you were looking at 3 and 4 if you throw in soccer. So you throw in 4. I think those numbers, just so so we understand roughly, like, are we having to whittle down this list to 2, or what are we looking at? I think, there's that, and then that gives some extra money for what I'm calling a little bit of the infrastructure improvements are kind of flexible in terms of, if we have $1 million for roads, we can do $1 million worth of improvements. If y'all were to give me $23 million for roads, I could do $23 million of improvements, or have it contracted out. So those numbers can go up and down. Same thing with the paths, depending on maybe what's left or what remains. So that's just food for thought when you just kind of look at those numbers. We're about, if you don't do the drainage project and we continue to apply for it in grants, you're almost looking at being able to do everything on this list, almost, or at least afford that, if that's what people want. Just because we can afford it doesn't mean we want it or the residents want it. So just food for thought in that process. Here's what I'm taking away. I'm taking away that we want a survey to go out, some sort of public engagement meeting. We'll start trying to, I hope to come to the next council meeting with a proposal on kind of what that looks like. If y'all know of any other projects, inevitably you put together a list and you put it in the council packet, and then somebody goes, well, what about the turf? And you go, yeah, okay. I've had that discussion with y'all before, so should have thought of that, but it wasn't one of the ones that's often talked about here. So there's probably something else that somebody has. One of the things is to get the prices. Turf and the civil work is actually fairly easy to get those prices. When you're talking about some of the other projects, it takes a little bit more time to plan out something, get cost estimates, and the like. So we need those earlier. I'll come with the council's blessing, approval, present a plan at the next council meeting for roughly the way that we're going to go forward with some sort of public engagement meetings, public hearings, or workshops, information being spread, and soliciting input. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Gardner.
Just on the police and fire training facility, if we did the indoor shooting range, would that eliminate an outdoor shooting range?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
thank
yes.
you.
So,
that makes me much more comfortable being next to the school, by the way.
Yes, yes. And after really looking at that and then having discussions, if we had to go to bonds, it became a no-brainer. What we were trying to do is take that $3.1 million that we've already saved and set aside for that, and then go, well, how can we make it fit? And we couldn't afford the training classroom and an indoor range. But Chief Pickard, who is going to glance this way any second, is trying to price out the indoor ranges. Okay, if there's nothing further on this, any other words right now on bond issue projects? Okay. That concludes unfinished business. We'll move on to mayor's comments. A lot of times stuff happens that never really makes it to y'all, and oftentimes doesn't make it to my desk, and that can be a testament to staff. We had at Audubon Point today a pipe burst and started flooding. I remember I was driving and I got a call from Chief Buford, who said, hey, look, I've got folks on scene. He's driving to Audubon right now to see what's going on. There's some outdoor pipes that burst flooding into residents' homes. We don't think the facility is capable of handling it themselves, and it's on the private side of the meter, so CAW won't have it. And so I sort of turn the way I'm going, and I pull up, and already on scene, thankfully not climbing through the mess, was Deb, Chief of Staff, and Courtney were out and trying to check on some of the residents that were in there. They're, it's largely elderly or disabled, and so they're not able to do anything. Within a few moments, you have Scott pull up, Chief Buford pulls up. Next thing you know, Senior Services is sending a shuttle over to help some of those people that were displaced, hopefully temporarily, so that they're not standing around and weird, bringing them over, feeding them at the senior center. In the meantime, I'm on the phone with CAW saying this is a private side problem normally, but we need your help to shut off the water because we can't shut it off, they can't shut it off. It doesn't look like they're capable of even getting anyone there in a timely manner. It's starting to flood. And by the end of the day, I don't want to say the problem is gone, but it is a testament to the city staff who just something pops up like this in an area where the residents are not really overly capable of taking care of themselves. And by the end of the day, I think we just have one person displaced, and that problem, they might be without water for a little while, but the company's working on that. We were more concerned about the flooding. So just a cool story, and I had basically nothing to do with it. It was just really entertaining to kind of, and interesting to see everyone just kind of come out to help a group of people that couldn't do it. So to all of y'all out there, thank you guys for what you were doing on that. I think that'll be it for mayor's comments. Do we have any council member comments? City attorney comments? City clerk comments? If there's nothing further, I would like to activate a mic and then entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn the city council meeting of August the 18th, 2025.
It was, what are you sign languaging, Mr. Grummer? No, you're good.
City council notification of the development over here on the country club, on the
Yes, thank you very much. I do have a motion and a second. If y'all would give me just a moment, I wanted to, Mr. Grummer, I'm sorry, I should have brought this up, or probably in special guest announcement. There's just an issue with, Scott, can you come up over? We have an area that is, this is just an FYI. We think that some trees are coming down in an area. It's all approved, but I assume phone calls are going to come in, so we wanted to give you a heads up on what that was. Scott?
Mr. Mayor, City Council, and I'm sorry, I should have reminded you before the meeting, just as a follow-up, but so there is an action that's going through Planning Commission right now for the area just to the north of Christian Brothers on the Boulevard Wooded area. So that's at City Council, but what we have done internally.
Planning Commission.
I'm sorry?
That's at the Planning Commission?
At the Planning Commission this month, which residents can certainly come out to. There's also going to be a community meeting that's going to be happening next Thursday where residents can come and speak to. But there was a plat that was approved at staff level, which by ordinance we can do that on one lot on that subdivision. And that approval of that plat allows for them to begin the grading because there's a restaurant that has purchased the land and they want to come in with a restaurant facility. That's right there off Orleans, and then the plat that's going through Planning Commission will plat out the remainder of that land for future development. So there's a lot of activity, but that's going to, when trees start coming down, residents may become, so they have questions, they can come to the community meeting next Thursday. It's going to be before the Planning Commission meeting here at City Hall in the map room over here.
Thank you, sir. So I would know if I would want to know if I was on the council that this was about to happen, because sometimes calls are going to start coming in, and ordinarily it would have came through the council at this point, but because they're just starting to grade one lot, it just doesn't trigger that. So we wanted you to know. So with that, I do have a motion and a second on the floor to adjourn the meeting. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.